Hi. Before we start, there is a psychotic break-sized toll in this video, and I have to address it if I want to move forward and move on with my life. Because the clips are either from right before or right after my 4-day break from reality. And now that I've spoken to a doctor, I know that it was the perfect storm. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong and was actually bound to happen with my situation. Me finishing this video and handing it in means I can finally finish my second year of university and finally being able to close that chapter. So I want to dedicate this video to Remy, we are currently seeing playing in the backyard in the snow on my birthday, and someone who would have really helped me during my psychotic break if I was allowed to see him. That being said, let us begin.
What does sueñito?
Sueñito? It means little dream.
El sueñito de mis papás es que nosotros tuviéramos una mejor vida que ellos.
Canada becomes the first country in the world to adopt multiculturalism as an official policy.
It was not that Canada had suddenly decided that it would be a tolerant, welcoming country and open up its doors, but domestic reasons resulted in that. For it to emerge as a global player, it had to distance itself from its white Canada-only immigration policy. There was also need for labor. You have a declining birth rate. Europe was not enough, so the doors were opened up for immigration from developing nations.
Immigration from Latin America exploded, occurring in 5 distinct waves since the policy change. Wave number 1, the lead wave from 1956 to 1969, the Andean wave from 1973 to 1975, the Coupe wave from 1973 to 1985, the 4th wave is the Central American wave starting from 1983 to ending in 1995, and the last wave, the new wave of professional immigrants starting in 1995 and ending in 2012. This is where my Colombian family migrated from Ecuador, where I was born, to the Greater Toronto area as Canadian residents because my dad works in IT. This is the GTA. It is a car-dependent hellscape that is made up of the megacity of Toronto and its 4 regional municipalities, Durham, York, Peel, and Halton. It has been seen as one of the most racially and ethnically diverse regions in North America and the world. And everyone brings their food.
Ever since my mother died, when I crave a taste of home, I look for roti. What's called West Indian roti in Canada is really dal puri, just one of several rotis or flatbreads made in the Southern Caribbean.
Probably sundubujiga, which is a silken tofu stew. I relate that to my mother because that was the first Korean recipe that my mother ever taught me to make.
Learned how to cook. Most Goyan Canadian women learned from their mothers because no one cooks like your mother. Mothers do not typically pass on recipes, rather women learn by watching. The process of learning by watching means other social and cultural lessons, perhaps less tangible than a recipe, could be passed on at the same time. Watching how food is prepared and embodied learning can also create a sense of importance about the task, establishing a persona of a good cook who is elevated to a special status within the family. Women learn this as girls in their mothers' and grandmothers' kitchens and in turn replicate it in their own homes.
Abuela's been cooking all week. Don't fight when I see you this weekend. Are we gonna eat?
I have never had a healthy relationship with my mother, so I never got to learn by watching or learn at all how to make traditional Colombian dishes. I feel like I am a passive observer of my culture, not because I didn't want to participate, but because I never felt welcomed to, and when I was welcomed, I didn't feel included. I feel like my mother didn't want to teach me in the ways she was powerful as a Colombian woman. And I was robbed of that. It has left me disoriented and lost in my identity culturally and as a woman, and I found solace in nations. This is Nations. It is an Asian grocery store on the intersections of Highway 7 and Weston that opened in 2012. And the reason I found solace in it is because I can find Colombian products there. It is very nostalgic to go to a grocery store like Nations because it's all I know. Even though my family and I lived in Toronto for 2 years, according to Cassandra Paula's Edenhardt's dissertation, Spanish Hybridity in Canada, the Making and Unmaking of a Diaspora, it takes 1 to 3 years for immigrants to properly integrate into a community. And here is a photo of me at the location of the first house I lived in would be. It was taken April 11th of 2001. We didn't have time to acclimate into the community because we were already on our way out. I'm going to walk you through Nations and give some recommendations and show you some of the things I love or want to try. Regular grocery stores only carry one type of mushroom, and I don't like it. So at Nations, I'm able to get the shiitake mushrooms, which I discovered through Aloha Poke, a Hawaiian restaurant near my house. And with them, I made Shanghai noodles with shiitake mushrooms. I had to try to pickle them. The process called for, I think it was like 24 hours. The minimum was like 24 hours, or you could do it for like 2 weeks. I wasn't gonna wait 2 weeks. I did it in an afternoon and it turned out pretty good. But it was such a long process that next time I think I'm just gonna buy pickled. In editing, I've tried to go back and find the recipe that was so long and I couldn't find it, so I can't even back my story up. But I remember the kitchen smelling awful after I was done pickling the mushrooms. So in this clip, you see me shaking a sign that says Colombia. I'm actually super happy because in all my years since 2014, when we first moved to Woodbridge, they've never spelled Colombia right, and this was the first time. In 2017, this is how they spelled it for granadilla, which is one of my Colombian fruits. And then I went recently, and this is how they spelled it for granadilla again. So I just think they have a beef with the fruit. The history of Nations on Highway 7 is a perfect example of racial capitalism.
Racial capitalism, which is to say all capitalism, is not a thing, it's a relation. However, if we look back through the history of capitalism as it developed, we see that the understanding that those who own the means of production had of their differences from those whose labor they exploited were understandings that we can recognize today as racial practice. So, all capitalism is racial from its beginning, which is to say the capitalism that we have inherited that is constantly producing and reproducing itself. And it will continue to depend on racial practice and racial hierarchy, no matter what.
Racial capitalism is what fuels nations, both in the sense that if it weren't for capitalism, the chains of production that brings produce and product from all over the world to this nations on Highway 7 and Weston would not be possible. Woodbridge Fawn is historically an Italian predominant neighborhood, meaning up until Nations in 2012, it only had 4 Longos, 3 Fortinos, and a Yummy Market, leaving the non-European market completely open.
They have to do with what was happening here in Europe between people, all of whose descendants might have become white. It doesn't have anything to do with Africa, Asia, North America, or South America. I mean, that is the major lesson of racial capitalism. And why does that matter? It matters because capitalism won't stop being racial capitalism if all the white people disappear from the story. Capitalism requires inequality, and racism enshrines it. This is another way of saying we can't undo racism without undoing capitalism.
And I'm honestly torn on how I feel about it because I'm still being treated with the same monolithic lens that the Euro-Canadian grocery stores treat me with. but somehow worse because they're benefiting from my money and they can't even spell the country right. At the same time, I'm grateful because I benefit from racial capitalism. If it weren't for racial capitalism, I wouldn't be able to feel close to Colombian culture, and I would lose it even more. And through these clips, you see how I don't, even though the products are right there, I never buy them or even reach for them because I don't feel worthy of them. It's so heartbreaking because I love being Colombian so much and I'm so proud of it, but I was never allowed to feel Colombian. During these clips, I'm living off distant memories. That is something I'm gonna start working on by myself by learning 2 recipes, arepitas con queso y buñuelos, and something I want to start learning with my dad. But he's one of the main people who calls into question my Colombianness, and all of this is what always made me feel like Dio Bruno from the movie Encanto.
Oh, well, because, the mountains around the Encanto are pretty tall and, like I said, free food and everything. You guys love the free food, don't you? It's always hungry. Yeah, my gift wasn't helping the family, but I love my family,
It was only when I looked outside of my immediate family, the transnational Euro-Canadian communities that exist in Vaughan, that I found people who would validate my identity because they wanted to hear about my culture just as much as I want to hear about theirs. Which is why I asked my friend to take me to the Polish grocery store in Mississauga. I had also become obsessed with ethnic grocery stores because of this project. And we got some Polish snacks and treats. We got a croquette and some pierogies, carrot and banana drink that she really likes, and like some chocolates. Now please enjoy this review of the pierogies. I fucks with pierogies so much. I don't know why I'm giving a review. It's so good. I love
that shrug. I was like, if you're gonna diss on Ruski, those are the best ones. I searched all of Poland looking for Ruski because I didn't know the name.
Oh, really?
At one point, I'm like, this is it. I remember I had pierogi once and they ascended me, but I forgot to ask for the name.
Oh,
so then I was just going around Poland ordering everything. Like this, what is this? And they're like, Ruski. I'm like, that's what it is.
I wanted to be able to share that experience back to my friend, but the only things I can speak on are the drinks. See? Tienen mora! Oh, they just need pineapple and we're good. This is manzana, so apple, grape, colombiana, obviously. But they need pineapple. Pineapple's the greatest one. And the snacks. And with the snacks, I was holding them at an arm's length because the lollipops were a go-to treat for me and my family when we missed Colombia. We all tried to alternate the flavors each time we had them together. I now don't speak to anyone on my maternal side of the family. I think that's one of the reasons why this project has taken me so long to do, because it surrounds such a triggering subject. This video is just the beginning of me moving on from this. Walking around nations trying to feel close to home, I would find products. Whoa, what the fuck? Excuse my swearing. It's bubble tea in a can. I did not know this existed. I don't have any money though. I now have tried all of them with my dad, but the Taro one. The one I'm currently drinking is the brown sugar bubble tea, while the orange one is Thai, green is matcha, white is milk tea. Me and my dad have started to bond over these drinks and Japanese food and other things that we find at Nations. Which is why I love Nations, because it's so many cultures under one roof that we could bond over something before it was Colombian food. My only suggestion to Nations would be to change Mexican and Jamaican to Latin American and Caribbean, and to spell all the countries right. It is Colombia. Someone who has always wanted to hear about my culture is my Italian boyfriend.
I never felt allowed to be Colombian.
You know what's funny? You've been telling me that since we actually first met.
Yeah.
You've literally been telling me that for now what's going to be 4 years.
Yeah.
So like...
My dad always says like, oh, you're not Colombian. I'm like, dude, everybody but you fuckers keep saying that I'm not.
That's true because you Colombian as fuck to me.
Thanks to you, Danny, I love Colombian food and everything that's offered. I love that it cooks with cheese. I love that it cooks with meat. I love that it cooks with rice. I love the flavors. I love everything about it.
To celebrate me finishing this video, he wants to go to a Colombian bakery to start the proper healing process. I couldn't agree more. El sueñito mío es ser una mujer hecha y derecha que sea una cocinera a la altura de mi mamá y mi abuelita. Starting with making Colombian hot chocolate for my friend, while me and my dad are slowly working on including more Colombian food practices in our day-to-day lives in my mother's absence. I have yet to find an academic paper that discusses this. This is completely new territory. I'm extremely excited. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this project. I will see you next time, and this has been Danny.